Hey friend, this is episode number 571 of the And So podcast with Taylor Bradford. Let's get to it. Boss Girl Creative presents And So with Taylor Bradford, business and life musings from a successful serial entrepreneur. Each week, you will hear Taylor spill the tea on all things business, life, relationships, health, and everything in between. But don't worry, each week also includes a business nugget that will help you stay on course. And now a throwback to 3-year-old Taylor who inspired all of this.
And so, what is it?
Hey, welcome to this episode of the podcast. I'm so grateful that you are here. Oh my goodness. More storms are on their way. Lots of rain. It's so crazy. I say this every year in this time, and I'm way more intuitive to the weather because A, we are roofers, and B, I have a garden. So it makes things very interesting in my world. What is a priority to pay attention to? So I want to jump into what's been going on in my world. Also, I'm adding a brand new feature or segment to the podcast. It is going to be unhinged comments on Facebook and Instagram. I'm going to keep track. I'm going to share them with you week to week. It is wild what people think it's okay to say. Genuinely wild. I'm mind blown every time somebody writes something. Because I really want to say, here's my phone number. Call and say that to my face. Let's FaceTime each other. Call and say that to my face. That's what I want to say. But yeah. Anyways, so that's coming up. Let's get started in with what has been going on in my garden. So I nearly have all of my main crops planted, which I am so grateful that I'm nearly to the finish line for that. I feel so behind in getting these final things into the ground. It just is a culmination of weather and then taxes and more weather and just not having the capacity. So I'm really hoping next season that I'm not this far behind, but we shall see. We shall see. I mean, next year might surprise me too. Plus, now that I know we are aiming for taxes to be done before the April filing deadline, I will be so much more prepared than I was this season. So yeah, that was part of it. So in the garden, like I said, all of my crops are nearly planted out. I have 2 more cantaloupes and 1 more watermelon variety to get in the ground. And all the companions have been doing that at the same time. I do need to do my second succession of corn. And then I have a space over by my cucumbers that I think I'm going to plant out some more beans, some green beans to be specific, because I ended up not doing a full row of cucumbers. I think I had 6 cucumber plants last season, and I had so many cucumbers from that. And I'm getting bigger with how much I'm growing just because I want to be a bigger food resource for my community. So this season, I'm doing 36 cucumber plants. Now, I don't know if they will all germinate, but that is a vast difference between 6 to now. And those, 36. Those 36 plants don't even take up the full row. So I think I'm going to add in some more beans or peas to grow over there just because I have the space. And I already have the trellis system in, so why not? And I love dried beans, so I'd rather have an abundance of those that get me through a full year. Plus, I'm still trying to figure out how many dried beans do you grow to get a lot of dried beans to have on hand. So that's still something I'm experimenting with. I can tell you, like, the last few days of working in the garden has been so labor intense that my body is really struggling to keep up being 45, which doesn't, like, I don't think it should be this hard. Like, come on, body, do better. And so as one of my search bar confessions, I'm Googling what supplement do I need to take? My muscles are stiff. Like, I'll be sitting in a chair and then it's like I go to get up and I can't get up, like, because my muscles have frozen themselves in that spot. I'm like, okay, I'm lacking something. And so, of course, you go to Google and find out what you're lacking because Google is so smart. And so we're trying a fish oil supplement to see if that will help, because the other thing is magnesium, and I take that every night and have for over a year. So it's not magnesium that I'm deficient in. I do need to go get my blood work done. I have the order and it's paid for. I just haven't done it. But all that to say, like, it's wild getting older. Nobody told you about these things. Okay, let's talk about books that I finished. I read number 3, Nancy Drew, The Bungalow Mystery. 5 stars. I'm loving rereading this series. I'm listening to it. Same difference, but it's just great. I just love Nancy Drew. And then I finished Road Trip by Mary Kay Andrews, 5 stars. I actually received an advanced reader copy of that from the publisher. And I've been a long-time fan of Mary Kay Andrews. And this one was such a pleasant read. Great storyline. 2 sisters who make a trip over to Ireland to discover some family history, and like some deep family history. And it was just a great read. And it took me a while because I was actually physically reading it, and finding pockets of time to do that is hard. It's why I go towards audiobooks more so than an actual traditional book, because of the pockets of time. So if it can be read to me, I can get lost in the book, but finding the pockets of time to actually sit down and read is usually when I'm eating dinner at home or eating lunch at the shop. And that's my pockets of time to actually physically read a book. Okay, here is my house update. So our spray foam and sheetrock are scheduled for 2 weeks. Officially, June 1st is when they will be coming in. So that's, like, I think things pretty much start really rocking and rolling once that happens. So I do need to reach back out to my cabinet guy and say, hey, let's meet up again. I already know you have my quote, but I want to start dialing in what this all looks like so that we're not delayed in your next steps and my next steps for cabinets. And then I think trim is right after him, and then paint. And then appliances and flooring. So, wow, I'm hoping should be going pretty fast. Okay, course update. I'm up to 15 sales, which is super exciting for me. I'm at 19,821 followers on Instagram, and I am at 10,674 people following me on Facebook. Something I am not trying to grow, but it's growing on its own. It is wild that it's doing that. I am still working on the next parts of my funnel. I'm kind of exploring some other options at the same time that I am working through finishing this next thing. So I have so much I did want to say for Instagram, I have paused doing the trial reels because I forgot for a week, basically, actually 5 days, I forgot. And I started creating a second reel that I post at noon every day. And so the morning reel is more of the educational stuff that is like a very strong hook, and mostly it's related to what I'm writing to you in the caption. And then the noon reel is way more storytelling, way more me doing things in the garden. And I am coming up with so much content for that it doesn't feel overwhelming. I get really excited once I decide on what I'm going to do, like getting it filmed. And so, and it's unpolished. It's like real. Like I just shared, I was actually filming for a noon reel for the future. I was planting out my cucumber row, and I had a mishap with the post hole driver, which mine is stupid heavy, but I borrowed it from my neighbor. And so, you can't complain about what they gift you to use. And I missed. I got overzealous in the uplift to drive it back down. And I I had to control not hitting myself with it and not like hyperextending my shoulder. It was funny. And I posted that one yesterday, and like solidarity with people that have had that same experience, because they come out and they actually have comments and share their stories with you. And that is the purpose. That is purpose. That's building community, because now people will start paying more attention and they will feel seen because I'm commenting right back. And that's the beauty of growing something like this. That is the beauty. But I can laugh at my own mishap because I was filming, and I can hear myself say the word, "oh," and then I probably would have used a cuss word, but in the long "oh," as I'm trying to control it without hitting me and hurting me and hoping I'm not going to, tear anything in my shoulders and my rotator cuffs, I remembered I was filming. And so I say crapola as my cuss word, because I remembered, and as I'm literally like fighting for me to not hurt myself, I remembered I was still videoing, and I was like, this is a PG account. And anyways, I posted that, and it's gotten over 20,000 views already. Lots of comments on both Facebook and Instagram. And I find so much joy in this type of content. I love educating in the 7 a.m. nugget, but I love this kind. And I just felt, like there's certain months where there's not a lot of that going on, because you're just waiting, right? You're waiting on the seeds to germinate, which can take 5 to 7 to 21 days, depending on the seed. And then you are waiting for them to grow, to get big enough for them to be transplanted out. And then you're waiting on your frost date to get past, so you don't harm the plants if you plant out too early. Like there's just so many things that I was waiting to do when I could have been filming all of it the whole time. But hopefully going into that next like downtime, I will be motivated and like, I don't know, motivate is really not the word. Have inspiration, be inspired to keep like that up. And hopefully I will just have a back catalog of things that I'm doing, because every bit, every piece, everything I do in the garden, around the garden, for the garden, like harvesting especially, it's all content that can be utilized. And yeah, that's part of growing a brand. So that's that. Okay, let's get into the new series. I'm titling it Unhinged Comments from Instagram and Facebook. Okay, Tracy D. After many, many, many views on this T-Post driver video, including people that I know that actively use this tool, she says, Miss Ma'am, you are totally using that post driver wrong. No, I'm not. But thanks. I think you must be using it wrong, because the way I'm using it, and 20,000 other people that viewed the video, and I know one person particularly is my sister-in-law, who has had cows and horses her whole life, and is very familiar with post-hole drivers, didn't comment that I was using it wrong. So yes, Tracy, I was not using the tool wrong, but Thanks for your unhinged comment. Quindale D says to me, I wouldn't trust a woman with this. The this he's referring to is the T-Post driver. Yep. I didn't remember the lady's name before I deleted the comment, and then today was when I decided I was going to do unhinged comments, but we're going to say Lady A said to me, this would have been better without the audio. It was a Justin Bieber song, and it was not a bad song. There was no, I try to be mindful about the songs I pick, but maybe listen to it on mute. I consume most of my content on mute. Yes. And then Lisa said, can't see the words on this video, which I should now just have an auto reply that I copy and paste for people on Facebook that say that to me at least once a week, that they can't read the caption, because I did reply back to Lisa and say, hey, I think you must have seen this reel over in the Reels feed on Facebook. I actually don't have any control over where Meta shares my content once I hit the publish button on my page. So please pop over to my Facebook page for you to read the caption. And Lisa actually responded back to me, oh my gosh, yes, that is my bad. I totally did that. She's the first out of all of the humans so far that have angrily come at me because they couldn't read the caption or said that I forgot it. Okay, that wraps up this week's Unhinged comments. All right, now we're in search bar confessions for the week. Camp McMullen. I actually was driving some back roads because one of the main roads that I wanted to be on was shut down for a very one lane road. And where I was in the shutdown of the one lane road, I had no clue which direction the leader truck was going at the time. So I GPS'd myself back over to my land and ended up driving by a camp really close to my land that I didn't know existed. So I wanted to learn all about Camp McMullen, which I found all kinds of information about. Actually, it's a historical camp, and that was fascinating to learn about. I Googled the definition of fallacy, and actually that was related to a person's comment last week to me about not knowing how to use Facebook, and that I left out the caption or whatever it was that they said to me angrily. And I wanted to use the word fallacy, but I wanted to make sure I understood that I was using it correctly. So I had to go Google the definition of fallacy. I saw a reel on Instagram that was talking about salads, and it reminded me of when I started thinking about salads differently, beyond your garden salad or your Caesar salad that you can get at a restaurant. And Giada De Laurentiis is the reason I started thinking about salads differently. She had an Italian salad that was with green beans and black olives. You could do a red onion, but I have that allergy, so I don't add the onions. And then it's just a quick lemon juice and olive oil vinaigrette and fresh cracked black pepper, and I think shaved Parmesan. It is white cannellini beans. It is so hearty and fulfilling. It changed my thoughts about salads forever. Way back, I think in 2007. I went back to see when she first shared that on one of her Food Network shows, and I think it was 2007 is how far back the comments went on the actual recipe. Total deep dive into crazy nothing. But yeah, that was one of my Googles. Pure Pod reviews. Some of the most interesting things are being served up to me in ads right now, and Pure Pod was one of them. It is a device that you stick into a bowl of water with produce, And I think it's ionizing the water to kill off the bacteria or dirt or what have you in produce. And like the one that I got served up on, I must have been on Instagram, they wanted $50 for it. And I was like, I want to know, wait, what are the reviews for this thing? So I went down a rabbit hole for reviews. Turns out lots of different people on Amazon sell the device under different names, and there are much cheaper options than $50. And some people said, oh yeah, it helped like pull more toxins out or what have you. I don't know. Like, it reminds me of the thing that you use to clean like your retainers, and I guess people that can use them for their dentures. It's the same concept. It's ionizing. So I can imagine it would be killing bacteria or probably chemicals off of your produce if you were to get them at the grocery store and you weren't controlling whether or not they had been sprayed. So very interesting. This one was called Pure Pod, but there are cheaper options on Amazon if you're curious. And then golden milk recipe. I saw somebody share a golden milk tutorial or recipe. Actually, they wanted you to comment to get the thing. And I was like, surely somebody else has already written a recipe that I can find. And so golden milk recipe, I went to Google. It was actually delicious. I made it last night and I will continue to do that because again, stiff muscles and turmeric is the part that makes it golden. And that is an anti-inflammatory. And so, yeah, I'm going to be adding that into my nightly routine. I also Googled growing watermelon at a market garden size because I needed to understand what market gardeners use for spacing, which helped me set up my melon plants, which is why I have just a few left to get in the ground. So I Googled that. I also Googled wet rated ceiling fans, say that 5 times fast, for my porch ceiling fans, trying to find a metal one. They're all wood, and wood will eventually warp and then it goes off balance and wobbles. So I'm trying to find a metal version that doesn't look like a spaceship. And then finally, like I mentioned previously, what to supplement for stiff muscles when you sit too long or you're, squatting down, doing something in the garden too long. Like, I get frozen there and I'm like, there's got to be something that I'm lacking that helps that. Welcome to 45 Taylor. Welcome. Okay, so that wraps up this week's Search Bar Confessions. Now, let's move into this week's business nugget. I honestly was going back and forth on 2 different topics. I need to probably make myself a note to do the other one, which is basically getting too big for your britches. Okay, but this week we are talking about signs it's not working in your business, when to quit or when to pivot. So I've been having some conversations with people and I could hear their frustrations. I can hear that they are not happy with their time and return on investment ratios. And at some point, there has to be a pivot or there has to be a put it to bed. It's okay to quit. Like, what is that point? Obviously, I can't tell you what that point is, but what is that point for you? At what point do you say, I can't do this anymore. I can't maintain this level of investment of my time and my money and my resources. I need to do something else without A, feeling like a failure. And then what does that actually mean for you? And then B, like giving yourself the opportunity to try something else. And how far of a pivot is that? Is that a new niche? Is that like just walking away and saying I'm semi-retired at that thing? And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today is signs it's not working, when to quit or when to pivot. Because I do think that there is a difference between quitting because something is hard and quitting because something is no longer honest. And then I do also think there's a difference between pivoting with intention and pivoting because you're bored or you're scared or you're avoiding the real problem that is allowing you to get to that pivot place. And here's the thing. Sometimes the business itself isn't broken. Sometimes the offer is unclear, or the audience is wrong, or the pricing is off, or your capacity has changed. I actually have been going back and forth. Like, do I drop the price on this course? Is this a money thing for people? But then I'll get another sale, and I'm like, you know what? You're just going to stay the course. You have literally only been doing this not even 5 months yet. It is not like a sprint. This is a marathon. So then I hold firm and I just keep doing what I'm doing, because I know eventually it will do what I want it to do. But here's the difference for me and maybe for you. I have other ways that I'm making money. This is not my bread and butter. This is not putting food on the table for me, and there's no pressure for it to be that, which allows me to have the freedom to just sink my heels in and be like, I know this will work. I know this will work. My Instagram stats, my Facebook stats are showing me that it is working. I'm going to keep going because I know it's working. It's finally working. So heels are dug in. So if the audience is right and the pricing is right and your capacity hasn't changed, but it's still not working, maybe it is really time to let it go. And it's not because you failed, it's because you listened to those signals. So I want to talk about the moment where you start asking yourself, is this still working? Not the coming from the anger, I want to burn it all down energy. I want to talk about when you go to bed at night and you are laying in bed, your evening routine is done and it's time to sleep, but you can't quiet your mind down and you're just running through things. The version of where you are thinking about your business, your offers, your content, your energy, your numbers, and this is where you realize something is off. And immediately your brain gives you two options: completely rebrand everything or quit altogether. This is in this calm space where you are not in commotion and you are not fully in with all the things rolling through your social media. This is a grounded and calm response to you really thinking and feeling through this fork in the road. So a pivot is when the mission still feels true, but the method needs to change. Quitting is when the thing itself no longer makes sense for your life, your capacity, your values, or your actual goals. So a pivot says this still matters, but the way I'm doing it isn't working anymore. And quitting says this has served its purpose, and I do not need to keep dragging it behind me to prove I was serious. Neither one is failure, but both require honesty to get you there. So here are some signs that it might be time to pivot. You still care about the people you serve, but the way you are serving them is feeling heavy, like you just aren't finding joy in it anymore. You still believe in the work, but the offer isn't landing. You keep getting questions or feedback or requests that point in a slightly different direction. This is why I love that ManyChat automatic hello, because it is giving me content gold when somebody actually starts communicating back to me. If you don't have ManyChat yet, I'm going to encourage you to try it for free for 2 weeks, 14 days. Use my link, bossgirlcreative.com/ManyChat. It is spelled MANYCHAT. Give yourself the opportunity to hear from people that are following you, for you to put auto responses in place so that sparks conversation, so that you can get some of this feedback. Okay, people are interested in you. So this is going back to signs that it might be time to pivot. People are interested in you, your story, your perspective, or your process, but not the thing you are currently selling, which is what keeps noodling in my mind about this other thing that needs to be the front end offer. You feel energized when you talk about a different part of the business, but drained when you talk about the official offer. You have traction, but it is not the kind of traction you want to build more of. I actually saw somebody talk about like going viral and how they kind of cringe when they go viral because it brings the wrong people. And that's so true. Like sometimes we strive to like hit it big and go viral, but sometimes the going viral brings out the unhinged commenters, brings out the people that, yes, it helped fuel the algorithm, but isn't actually somebody that's going to buy from you. Another sign it might be time to pivot. The business is making money, but the delivery model is quietly eating your life. Your audience has evolved, but your messaging is still speaking to the older version of them. You have outgrown the container, not the calling. And finally, you keep trying to make the old version work because you do not want to start over, even though the next version is already tapping you on the shoulder. And man, if one door closes, another one always opens. Okay, here are signs it might be time to quit. You do not want to talk about it, sell it, improve it, deliver it, or troubleshoot it anymore. You feel relief when you imagine closing it down. You don't feel fear. You do not feel avoidance. You actually feel relief. You're only keeping it alive because of sunk cost, the money, the time, the logo, the website, the course you bought, the people who know you for it. The business no longer fits your real life, and every attempt to make it fit requires you to abandon your capacity. You resent the clients, the content, the offer, or the version of yourself you have to become to keep selling it. The market has given you enough feedback, and the feedback is not try harder. It is, this is not connecting. You have tried to simplify, clarify, reposition, or restructure, and the answer still feels like no. The thing is technically working, but it is pulling you further away from the life or the business you actually want. And finally, you would not choose this business again if you were starting today. So here are signs you should not make a decision yet, whether to pivot or to quit. You are exhausted. You are comparing yourself to someone else's very polished Tuesday. You just had a bad launch, one weird client conversation, or one low engagement post. You have not looked at the actual numbers. You have not asked whether the problem is the offer, the messaging, the audience, the platform, the price, or your current capacity. You are trying to make a permanent decision from a temporary emotional state. And finally, you want to burn it down. But what you really need is a nap, a spreadsheet, and maybe one adult beverage or water. Fine, water that will work. I actually don't drink alcohol much anymore, so I would be picking, I don't know, a fresh juice or a smoothie. Gatorade, maybe. Oh my gosh, the garden sucks the life out of me. Actually, it's the sun that is doing that. Okay, so questions to ask before pivoting or quitting. What exactly is not working? Is it not working emotionally or financially or operationally or strategically? Do I have data or do I just have a feeling? What part of this still feels true? And what part of this feels forced? Am I tired of the business or am I tired of how I built the business? Am I avoiding visibility or is this truly misaligned? Am I quitting because I am clear or because I am uncomfortable? If I removed the shame, what would I want to do next? If no one knew I had ever started this, would I keep going? And then finally, what would I change if I trusted that I was allowed to build differently? Here's the messy middle truth of all of this. Sometimes the first version of the business is just the bridge. It gets you moving, and it teaches you what you like, what you hate, who you want to work with, what you are good at, what drains you, and what people actually respond to. That does not mean it was wrong. It means it gave you information. And information isn't failure, it's clarity. So I want you to pause before you panic in thinking it's time to pivot or to quit. And I want you to name what is actually not working. I want you to separate emotion from actual evidence. I want you to look at the numbers, your energy, your audience response, and the operational reality of it all. I want you to decide whether the core is still true. If the core is true, pivot what you need to pivot. If the core is not true anymore, release it. Then take one next step to do it. Not 12, just one. One to make the pivot or one to shut it all down. You do not have to keep proving your commitment to a version of the business that no longer fits. You are allowed to pivot before you hit total burnout. You are allowed to quit something that is technically fine, but no longer right. You are allowed to change your mind with data and self-trust. You are not starting over. Here's your permission slip. You are starting from experience. The goal is not to build a business you can tolerate. The goal is to build one you can actually sustain. Duh. If the business only works when you override your capacity, it is not working. If the offer only sells when you abandon your voice, it's not aligned. If every part of your body exhales when you imagine letting it go, start paying attention. Pivoting does not always mean a full rebrand. It might mean changing the offer. It might mean changing the audience or the delivery or the price or how you talk about it. It might actually mean finally admitting that the thing people want from you is not the thing you thought you were supposed to sell. You don't need to burn everything down just because something feels off, but you do also not need to keep watering something that has already shown you it is done growing. The work is learning how to tell the difference. That's the clarity practice in business. Not the dramatic overnight decision, the honest pause, the quiet question, the willingness to say what is true here, and then actually start listening to yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Next week's going to be a good one too. And I'm glad you listened to this one. Thank you so much again for being here. Until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this week.
Let's go.
And like my 3-year-old self said, that is all for this week. Friendly reminder to rate and review my show wherever you are listening. And last but not least, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me an audio message at bossgirlcreative.com/speak. I would love to hear your takeaways, ideas for upcoming episode topics, and your feedback. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this one.